especially during an emotional trauma, to my conscious awakening that I am adept in body, mind, spirit, sharing the birth, life, death process with everyone else here, but being a precog, an informant, and one who speaks of life after death and life after life, and the inclusion of those in the Ascension Cosmos, or that which we exist in the all universes, many universes, is the fact there are beings out there. They may not let everyone know they are there, but they are higher conscious intelligences. And I felt the presence of both male and female energies talking to me. Now, the ones that I saw of gold personages, I believe, were also, there's various levels that many religions or many other people that have died and even been on this channel and on this radio show, as we've discussed these stories of high maintenance of our souls around the many universal levels, regard the history and the research here on the planet for all creations of how the sounds, words, symbols mean something in passing to others that we may help up-level in this game of life. So many of us have gone on to have our own channels now. But some of us believe the history is important because we learn from our mistakes as to what we do to our human form, our container, our avatar while here. And it's a procedure that one should learn to introduce safe care, health, and the purposes of maintaining one's own essence in the performance of existing, so one can level up, because there are consciousnesses above us in the divine essence, performing duties as leaders of thought forms in this ultimate purpose and goal of bringing unification and harmony and balance within all aspects of all universal studies, are freeing humankind, are that which is expression of love and light and service to mankind. Now, we had this written long before Carla became a channel, and that's why I started comparing the notes of those who I worked with. And some of these were people, Chicken Soup of the Soul, and people that wrote various books in the late 70s and early 80s. And I was introduced to colors and rays of energy, and why we as yogis, our prior locations on Earth, returned to share in up-leveling. I don't know any other way to say it, but those who believe in the monad or in the unconscious or in the conscious, the superhuman behavior, and those of extraterrestrial origin. Now, many have asked me to help in the creative expression of channeling, begin teaching again, because I've been away for many, many years. And as a teacher, matter of fact, I stopped really teaching in 1994 because I was asked to take on a case for the government and to help because of the extraterrestrial amplification, even though we had historically studied and were organizing events. And I actually went to some events for Body, Mind, Spirit, or Whole Life Expos, and I met Sean David Morton in New York at one. At that time, he wanted a booth where I was to be. I believe that was 93 or 94, before I was assigned to my husband, or the man who I'd spend 20 years and back with above space. There's a 20-year and back program, even here on Earth, where you can serve 20 years in a career and with the government and retire, but also off planet, which was interesting. So now we have space and astronauts and those who can come and go in human form into space. And we understand some of the names you may recognize. Jeff Bezos, one of the leading beings on the planet that has changed the world. And Sir Richard Branson are the three that come to mind that are three males. And we're going to have many females doing the same. But how you acquire and meditate the state of being isn't maybe something they know or talk about anyway to the populace. There are beings such as myself, of the beings who channel and stream and help you with more information in our corporation that will vote with our voting power of our vote in America, and how we will affect the entire world with being of worthiness to share. Let me get this. Let me see. I'm going to put you on hold for just a minute because that's Richard calling me, and I don't know if he can get on. Most recent call. Hold on. He'll just have to call in. Richard, this won't let me. Let's see. Okay, I'm back. So I was speaking to Richard for a moment. I apologize. People, you have to stay abreast of what's happening in your life based on cyberspace culture. And this show's been up, and the emails were sent, and he said he didn't get them. But this is a time when we have to be aware that there's so much information to our avatar and our being and our constant container that even though we each do our best, am I my brother's keeper is one of the messages, that we are all connected and unified. And if we are truly psychic and have this ability to stay in tune with others, we shouldn't have others calling to remind us of when things are or when we are invited. But this show does put, and I put the names in the space, so I know that everything is documented for people to be aware if they are to be a part of us. And they shouldn't have to be reminded. They should feel it. And this is part of the new live streaming that we'll be getting into for those that are wanting to be a part of something greater than themselves and be in service. So Kathleen McGallion's journey is to become a foremost expert in the field of women's history, which encompasses decades of research and global travel, as well as her own life's initiations. And Kathleen has spent over 30 years studying the legends of Mary Magdalene in France and that of the women who claimed 2,000 years, her as a spiritual godmother, and queens, warriors, scholars, mystics, women who changed the world but have been unsung. So as the New York Times and global best-selling author of the Magdalene Line trilogy, her book broke foreign language distribution records, appearing in 40-plus languages, even while the content was controversial and ahead of its time. So Asherah Press is an imprint of Flower of Life Press, and I am not a part of that, but I am reporting on it because it has only come into my consciousness during this live streaming, so I must have connected for a reason. As the Dwarpa disc, and as Richard calling in to find out that I am already here and speaking to those of you that will listen. And I can speak to you if you want to learn how to channel yourself. There are ways to help yourself in consciousness, your subconscious, your superconscious, and not be thinking that it is not part of you, but is actually part of everything that you are at the deepest levels of reality in your global travel, universal travel. If you learn to do out-of-body experiences and those type of behaviors of studying one's existence as attached to all that is, it's very cleansing to know that one is attached even if one is not of human form. And there are beings that come to this planet that know of the many universes and the multiverse theory of what is and what is reality. And everything that Philip Coppin studied is worth going back and seeing and revisiting if you can find it. He was very intelligent, and he was a teacher. And I haven't even studied everything he's done. Just to study another's life is so time-consuming, but claiming the Dropa disk as authentic artifacts of those beings that were small. And then we had those of the heavens came of the Anunnaki that were tall giants. And some, including Disk and then the Eric von Daniken, or Daniken story, is said to lead to unknown languages, are those which he could decipher and discuss. It was he and his studies, Eric von Daniken, the study of human mind and languages, that he wrote his own book that affected many of us. So is alien implanted history a thing? I believe so. I also believe that they are there watching us. And these Dropa discs are Neolithic period, 3,000 before Christ existed. And we used to say after death and before death of that one human being. And now globally, internationally, I don't know if AD and let me look. I'm going to put AD period, Amino Domini. Let's see what it definition of AD, common errors in English. As far as back as 1906, Lord Avebury, an Englishman, uttered the following in the House of Lords: the unrest in Europe, the spread of socialism, and ominous rise of anarchism are warning to the governments and ruling classes that condition of the working classes in Europe is becoming intolerable, and that if a revolution is to be avoided, some steps must be taken to increase. I've got AD definition. I don't know what, in the Christian era, used before dates after the supposed year Christ was born in AD 200, AD Anno Domini, ANNO-DOMINI. So that was used after death of the Christ. Now, Americans, in everything I grew up, was BCE, before Christ existed, and after death, or Anno Domini. Now, I don't know if others want to talk in that reality now, but that was the one I was raised in as an American, and in the American schools that were provided me. I didn't go to private school. I went to those that are offered to families in the middle class or lower middle, or to all, I guess, schools. I'm going to talk to you about Apothonius, a rhetorician of Antioch, AD 315, wrote and translated a treatise and converted it into Latin prose. And the Fables, 1327 AD, he was sent on a diplomatic mission to Venice by the Emperor Andronicus the Elder. And the Calvinites, gradually thickening around the Eastern Empire and the fall of Constantinople, which was 1453 AD, combined with other events to promote the rapid restoration of learning in Italy, and with that recovery of learning, the revival of an interest in the fables of Aesop, and is closely identified in our classic literature. Now, in 1546 AD, the second printed edition of the collection of the fables made by Planutus was issued from the printing press of Robert Stevens, in which were inserted some additional fables. Now, 250 by another as late as Emperor Severus, who died AD 235, while others made him a contemporary with Phaedrus in the time of Augustus. They say a pagan temple stood where Notre Dame, or Notre Dame, depending on how you want to say it, Notre Dame, now stands as the old Roman days, 18 or 20 centuries ago, remained of or is still preserved in Paris, and that a Christian church took its place about AD 300. Another took the place of that in AD 500, and that the foundations of the present cathedral were laid about AD. Now, we have fragment, Strasbourg Greek papyri 55, or the 2nd century AD, a little under 300 years from AD 618 to 906, the period of the Tang dynasty and the great age of Chinese poetry had come and gone. Now, as far back as 1906 AD, Lord Avebury An Englishman uttered the following in the House of Lords: "The unrest in Europe, the spread of socialism